We're in week 2 of a series called Gravity. This is a series about the laws of life. In the world of science, a law is something that is. You can't argue with scientific laws because they just are. The examples we've been using is the law of gravity. If you climb up to your roof and jump, it doesn't matter how much you hope you can fly, it doesn't matter how well thought out your plan of flying is, it doesn't matter if someone else sincerely convinced you that you can fly. Within a few panic-stricken seconds, you will understand that the law of gravity doesn't care. You will have a broken leg. That's just how this law works. Now, last week we talked about the law of magnets. The concept is that our friends influence us. Actually, it's stronger than that. We become just like our friends. That's the law of magnets. Crowds influence us, so we need to ask ourselves, how is our crowd? Now, today's law comes from the world of love. Who can deny how exciting it is to have a crush? When you have a crush, you can't stop thinking about that person. I mean, it's crazy. You're trying to study for a test, and his or her face keeps popping up in your head. You're trying to get some sleep, and your mind keeps imagining that you run into him or her in the school hallway. All your books go flying, and they stop and help you pick up your books. And you have the moment when your eyes meet, and the magic and the fireworks, and well, it's love, right? See, the thing with crushes is that they evolve. Have you ever noticed this? A crush isn't happy to stay a crush. When you have a crush on someone, you want something more with that person. You want to spend more time with them. You want them to like you. You want them to be close to you. You want them to date you. I know this because if you have a crush on someone and they send you a note saying that they like you too and want to date you, there is a 0% chance that you are going to say, nah, I'm good with just having a crush on you. I just like liking you. I'm happy with just awkwardly watching you from a distance. Crushes demand action. You either end up in a relationship with the crush or your crush fades away. Crushes lead to dating. Now, what's up with that? Now, there's a reason, and we'll get there, so hold on. So, crushes, again, lead to dating. Now, eventually, you're going to end up in a dating relationship. Maybe you have already been there. Maybe you're in one right now. Now, here's the thing about dating. It's complicated. It's actually sort of difficult. It doesn't always end well. People break up and tears. People break up and hate each other. You know, think about it for yourself. If you know people who have broken up and they hate their ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend, okay? Or maybe you hate your ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend. You see, dating is complicated. Here's what I know. No one has baggage from having a crush, but lots of people have baggage from dating. No one has scars from having a crush, but I've talked with many people who have deep scars from dating. Because again, dating's complicated. It can be a little dangerous. There should be a warning label on dating. It could be hazardous to your health. Now, what is it about dating that is so hazardous? What is it about dating that often leaves people scarred and hurting? I think it's because people don't pay attention to one of life's principles. Remember the concepts of laws of nature? Okay, you can't argue with gravity. It just is. I'm going to share with you a law about relationships that if you pay attention to it, it will save you a ton of heartache. If you learn this law and apply it to your life, you will steer clear of trouble and maintain healthy relationships. In other words, by respecting this law, you could be one of the few who doesn't get hurt dating. Now, what's the law? Okay, it's the law of glue, which states that intimacy is glue. So what? Okay, let me explain with the word you know, glue. What does glue do? It puts two things together. In super glue, it puts two things together in an irreversible fashion. You can't undo super glue. When you tear two things apart that have been super glued together, they don't come apart cleanly. Part of the one will be permanently part of the other. There will be pieces that will be torn off and lost to the other. That's how super glue works. It was meant to put two things together permanently. So that's glue. Now, what about intimacy? What is intimacy? Intimacy refers to deep connection. Being intimate involves the mixing of our lives with another person's. It's a mingling of souls, a sharing of hearts. This is something we all long for because it is how God made us. We were designed to be connected. Another way to describe intimacy is oneness. It's like becoming one with another person. It's a beautiful concept, and it was all God's idea. But for Adam, no suitable helper was found. So the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and then closed up the place with flesh. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man. The man said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man." That is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. Now God created the marriage relationship to be a beautiful reflection of himself. Three persons existing in a perfect and intimate relationship, a husband and a wife, reflect this relationship. The goal of a marriage is intimacy or oneness. One thing that we have to understand is that the world is no longer the way it was supposed to be. This planet is broken. We are broken. Where we were once satisfied in God and the amazing gifts He gave us, we are now desperate. We are desperate for intimacy. We recklessly want intimacy. This is why crushes turn into dating. This is why you aren't satisfied to have a crush. You want more. This is why Jeremiah, one of the prophets of Israel, wrote something thousands of years ago that is still true today. The human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is? Your heart is desperate for intimacy. It wants it very badly, and it will lie to you in order to get it. If you don't fight against your natural inclinations, you will quickly find yourself superglued to the person you are dating. It's the natural way of things. It just happens. You are desperate for intimacy, and your heart is a liar. Intimacy is exhilarating. It feels so right. It's an amazing feeling to be intimately close with another person. It is supposed to be permanent. Now, in order to be intimate with another person, you have to be fearless and love them and put yourself at risk to be rejected. Intimacy is the superglue that binds a marriage together. In a dating relationship, intimacy feels awesome in the moment, but later, after things have fallen apart, it hurts. It hurts a lot. I have a million stories I can tell you from my life and the lives of my friends of how people superglued themselves to a person they were dating, and how when they broke up, it felt like they were being ripped apart because they were. And here's a secret that no one else will tell you. After you've been superglued to someone else, it's hard to be intimate with your next boyfriend or girlfriend. If you go around supergluing yourself to the people you date, you will have a very hard time being intimate with your husband or wife 10 or 15 years from now. Because when you are intimate with a person, it is permanent. You lose part of yourself to them. It's supposed to last forever. Intimacy is like superglue, and there are consequences to gluing yourself to people. Now you have a choice. You can respect the law of glue, or you can pretend it isn't real. It's your life, and God has given you freedom of choice, but He has designed life a certain way. And when we ignore the laws of nature, we put ourselves at risk. If you want to respect the law of intimacy, you need to understand that there are two sides to intimacy, and they are both powerful. Now, emotional intimacy is incredibly powerful. The relational side of a relationship is where you experience intimacy at the deepest levels. How do I know this? Because when He tells you that you are beautiful, that your eyes sparkle, that He wants to be with you forever, yada yada yada, you get stupid. You get the butterfly feeling in your chest, your head starts to feel fuzzy, and you're likely to do something you'll regret. Words are the way to your heart. The emotional side of the relationship is where you experience intimacy. But please be careful. Some guys are dangerous and know how to manipulate girls with their words to get what they want. There's also a physical type of intimacy. Now girls, you need to understand that your bodies make guys stupid. There's nothing more beautiful in all the world than a woman's body, and I'm serious about this. The closer it is and the more guys see it, the dumber we get. The more likely we are to do something we'll regret. We experience intimacy at the deepest levels in the physical expression of love. Now understand this, your heart will lie to you. It will tell you that if you give your body to him, you will feel something amazing, intimacy. And yes, you will, but for a short time. And then you'll be glued to him, and there are consequences to being glued to someone. You lose part of yourself in the tearing part of that intimacy. Your heart will lie to you. It will tell you to use your words to manipulate her into getting what you want. And for a short time, while you will have intimacy, but intimacy is like glue. It will hurt terribly bad when you are torn apart and you lose part of yourself. If you want to keep yourself from serious hurt after a breakup, you need boundaries. You need emotional and physical boundaries. I don't know how many times I watched my friends in high school and even college not have those boundaries. They would tell the girls they were dating that they loved them, and then afterwards when they broke up, they regretted it. They did what they could to get a line, to get a kiss out of it. And again, looking at them and talking with them, and now later for some of them finding their spouse, they regret it. Now I know for myself, I was lucky with some of these boundaries. Katie and I started dating in high school, and she is the only girl that I have ever kissed or that I told her that I loved her. See, each of us has the freedom to decide what our boundaries are going to be. Without boundaries, we have no protection from the glue of intimacy. And a word of advice, in a dating relationship, a boundary unstated is not a boundary. Tell him or her what your boundaries are. If you don't tell them, you can't blame them for crossing the line. So what should we do? See, there's three things that we need to do. First, you need to define your emotional boundaries. Now be very careful with the L word. It is far more powerful than you think. Especially for girls, it can easily lead to emotional intimacy, which can cause a lot of heartache when things fall apart. Understand that words are immensely powerful and create expectations and dreams in the other people. When you become emotionally glued to another person, it can be terribly painful when you are pulled apart. Second thing is you need to define your physical boundaries. Hey Jack, it's like they say on Duck Dynasty, lips on lips and hands on hands. Honestly, that's not a bad rule. Think about what your physical boundaries are. What do you want to be left to give as a gift to your spouse after you get married? What standard do you feel like God is calling you to? Invite a trusted friend, small group leader, or a mentor into the conversation and get their opinion. Write it down. Make sure someone you trust knows about your boundaries. And lastly, tell him, tell her. If you're dating someone, you need to communicate your boundaries to them. You need to tell them. A boundary unspoken, again, really isn't a boundary. Make this a regular practice in any dating relationship you get involved in. Be clear about your expectations. And remember the law of glue. Intimacy is super glue.